Hello everyone and welcome. If you enjoyed this kind of content and you like the channel, we do this stuff every day, talking about Dark and Darker. Please like and subscribe, it helps me a ton. But today's going to be a little bit of a rant in the background here. I'm playing some Rat Cleric in the Goblin Caves, and we really got to talk about where we are here with hotfix patch 17 on patch 1. In the last, 3 weeks of the game have been pretty rocky, with the experiments going on by Iron Mace to make loot more meaningful while simultaneously trying to balance the economy, the unfortunate real money trader situation, and, gameplay. And so let's talk about the pros before we get into the cons real quick. Dark and Darker's gameplay continues to be really incredible. It's a lot of fun to play. It is exciting. The PvP and the PvE is pretty damn good. Iron Mace really has something here. But I think they're really on the edge of kind of losing it due to some of the cons we're about to discuss. And that is their inability to kind of balance fairness and fun gameplay with economic instability. So I know a lot of this has been brought upon by recent changes to the chess and to the loot game in general, which has introduced a lot more money into the economy than usual. But putting that aside, I think there's fundamental questions about whether or not the economy is really a helpful product facet for what Dark and Darker is and what it's trying to be. So today they announced that they're hosting their first tournament. And what is one of the interesting bylines on the announcement of this tournament? The announcement says that there will be no trader gear, there will be no marketplace gear, that the contestants who are going into this tournament will be essentially using found items only. It's really interesting to me that they recognize that this has to be done for the purposes of having a fair and level playing field in their tournament. But the entirety of the end game for Dark and Darker is based on the inequalities of wealth and the ability to leverage economic warfare against your opponents. You can't play the game right now without seeing this glaring issue. And the fact that they concede that it's such a prominent issue by restricting basically all mercantile and trade activities for their tournament, I think highlights the fact that this absolutely has to be discussed in the broadest contexts, which is, trading is essentially bad for the game. It allows you to leverage a degree of unfairness that is not enjoyable and is not a level playing field. We see this to a small extent with regard to lobby bullies, and I know if you've played Dark and Darker at all, you've run into super geared people in the Goblin Caves or the Crypts or the Ruins who are not there to play the game. They're there to wipe lobbies. They don't loot their kills, they're not interested in any of the gear you have. They're simply there to essentially grief and leverage their superior economic position, their ability to assemble pristine, well-appointed gear sets, against a bunch of folks who are really just trying to enjoy the game, gear up, and enjoy the progression system, which is the end game for Dark and Darker, getting better gear. You have people coming in from the end game who are leveraging that. Now that is a minor issue compared to what else we need to talk about. The most common thing you hear is, why aren't you bullies in High Roller? Well, there's a lot of reasons not to be in High Roller, starting with the fact that some of these people will always do what they're doing right now unless they're prohibited from doing so. They just want to bully. That's going to require very specific, very targeted kind of changes. Iron Mace sort of addressed it with the under 15 lobbies, which was a lot of fun while it lasted, but then they took that out. They attempted to solve it a different way by prohibiting, purples in normal lobbies, epic gear or higher in normal lobbies. That didn't really work at all because the guys who want to do this are just going to assemble perfect sets of blues and come in and stomp. So what we really got to talk about is why no one wants to run high roller. And the answer that right now is you can't run high roller without getting teamed on by a majority of the lobby who is teaming for real money trading purposes. So I think it's a general pejorative, but I think the Chinese gold farmer tag is thrown around a lot because these guys are speaking Mandarin in the voice channels, but essentially what they're doing is they're running around and queuing into areas which have a low demographic representation based on the time of day. So they may be joining West Coast servers during non-peak, in which case they can ensure that a substantial cross-section of the lobby is in fact folks who are teaming or capable of teaming, either on voice Discord or speak the same language. And their purpose there is to clear the lobby of all high-value targets, including chests and coffins, but also players. If you try to buck what they're trying to do at all, they will come and run you out. All of this is driven by the fact that, based on that part of the world's economics, real-world economics, they can make serious money by selling gold to people. So this opens a much broader conversation about, how do they attack this problem? Is it supply side, right? Do we go after the people who are farming the gold and selling it? Is it demand side? Do we go after the people who are buying the gold for whatever reason? I don't know what that answer is, and I think it's complex and it's worthy of more than a 15-minute discussion. These guys have a fairly good set of design-minded people working for them, but they seem to be confounded by what's going on right now, and Iron Mace is kind of floundering to address this. My recommendation is this. Starting in the next patch, they need to disable all trading. Dark and Darker needs to run as a found item only game until they're prepared to address the imbalance that they're creating, right? There is a cyclical nature here between the gold money farmers running people out of high rollers, displacing them into normal lobbies, and then the normal lobbies becoming incredibly toxic due to bullying and wealth advantage leveraging. They can put an end to this tomorrow if they just disabled anything but merchant buys. If they were to turn off the trading house and you actually had to find a set of perfectly rolled gear, one, it's going to be more valuable to the individuals, and two, it's going to kill real money trading because no one's going to spend dollars to get gold to buy from vendors. Two, it's going to immediately turn off the incentive for people to ruin their game. And their game is essentially being ruined at the highest levels in high roller by these real money trading folks. So, if they don't address this, I think this is as bad as the Tarkov cheating situation. There's some people who, like to play the game found item only. I run with a crew that really enjoyed the under level 15 lobbies because it was essentially, found item only due to the lack of trading, unless you really wanted to jump through some hoops to get some buddies to load you into a normal game to gear you up to then send you back to the under 15s. But I don't know why we're beating around the bush here on this issue. Until they're able to control the vast number of variables that are leading to this kind of toxic cycle that Dark and Darker's in, between the real money trading, the pointlessness right now of going into high roller during most times of the day, due to the small lobby size and the ability for essentially cheaters to be able to team and run the lobby, until they're able to get under control the economic warfare that's being leveraged by bullies in normal games. They just need to do something. because the vast majority of your potential player base and the vast majority of your potential revenue upon release are not gold money farmers, and they're not lobby bullies. That is not a sustainable customer demographic. And if you build a game that only caters to those two demographics, you're going to run off the 80% of the remaining player base who's interested in the great gameplay and progression systems that actually work in this game, opposed to abusing the ones that simply do not. I think we're kind of at a tipping point there. I think there's going to be some excitement around the next wipe, but if this isn't addressed, if the real money trading farmers are able to continue to farm, if they're continued to allowed to continue to cheat in the high roller lobbies, if we don't get some control over the ability to wage economic warfare, like, this game does not have a bright future. And everybody sees the potential here. I guess I'm calling for Iron Mace to disable trading in its entirety, just like they're proposing for this upcoming tournament for the purposes of fairness and enjoyment. That's the only path forward until you figure out how to get a hold of the cheating situation, the real money trading situation, and the bullying situation. You are taking an incredibly anti-new player perspective. You are taking an incredibly anti-revenue and anti-growth perspective for this game that you guys have clearly put so much time and effort into. Anyway, I hope this finds a way to you, Iron Mace. I am interested in what the community thinks. I think this is going to be very unpopular from a community perspective, simply because, economic warfare has been a large part of what Dark and Darker is to a lot of people for a long time. But there's absolutely no future for the game in that vector as it stands right now. The appropriate guardrails and controls are not in place to ensure that that can happen. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. It helps me a ton. I look forward to reading your comments below, and good luck to you in your raids to come.